Okay.
Do you know it gives us the choice now to leave the meeting if we don't want to be recorded? That's new.
Oh,
Okay, so we'll call to order at 7:02 Verizon time. And we'll start with our audience for staff and citizens. Okay, we'll move over to correspondence to the board. Frank, you have a letter, and then I think I just have one. I thought I had two, but I just see one here.
okay. I do have a letter. It reads, it was, oops, hold on.
Good
Okay,
idea.
it was dated July 6th, 2021. Dear Dr. Ola and Ms. Roberson, it is with mixed feelings that I must write to you my letter of resignation. I respectively ask to resign from my kindergarten teaching position as of August the 9th, 2021. While I have only been with HES for a short time, I have always felt welcome, and I am so glad that I was able to end kindergarten on such a great note for some great students. Unfortunately, due to budgetary concerns, I felt that it was best at this point in my career to seek permanent employment. I thank you for your support and graciousness during my time at HES. Sincerely, Rachel Porter.
Thank you. And that comes up as an item on the agenda. Now I have, to whom it may concern, it is regret that I am writing to inform you that I will be resigning from my position with the Hampton Board of Education effective on August 31st, 2021. I will, in the near future, no longer be a full-time resident in the town of Hampton or the state of Connecticut. This would not allow me to perform my duties as required. I have very much enjoyed being a part of the attempt to provide the best education for our students, as well as taking into account the expenses to town taxpayers. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me for any assistance I could provide to you or the town. Best regards, Neil Moon. So we'll miss you, Neil. And I'm sorry to see you go. I'm going to put under additions to the agenda to discuss being one board member short. Okay. So that's all I have for correspondence. Now we have approval of the 6/23/21 minutes. And I will jump right in with a huge mistake that jumped off the page when I read it after I printed it out. Under number 3, correspondence to the board, the last sentence said, Rose Bisson read another letter from Rader. And that should be Robert Rader.
Spell the last name, Rose, please.
R-A-D-E-R.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have?
Yes, I do. Susan Lovegreen.
Yes.
I don't know if this is important and it might not be a big deal, but I noticed on number 17, it has the time that you entered. Oh, never mind. I just reread it.
Okay, great.
Never mind. It's fine.
Rose, are these the minutes that had me present? I believe I wasn't there.
They sure did. Let's remove that. Anything else?
Rose,
Yes, Juan.
I think under the minutes, we should have something said about the discussion concerning the critical race theory. Just at least mention that the board discussed it, the pros and cons, and we didn't really act on it, but that there was strong discussion involved. At least that should be reflected. Thank you.
I personally don't agree. So when I submitted the minutes, I didn't put that. Where does it even, where was it on the agenda? Did I skip something on the agenda?
That was a correspondence with Robert Rader. I think that was a letter we discussed.
So, but did we add it to the agenda?
We must have, because I know we discussed it for like an hour.
It's number 8.
Oh, yes, it is, number 8. So since the person who put the minutes in does not believe it doesn't go there, if the board chooses by vote to put it there, it will go in as a correction. I'm not hearing a motion.
Okay. Then I
I'll
make
make
a
a
motion.
motion.
Rose, it's
Yes.
Juan. I make a motion that we correct the minutes.
No, it has to be specific one.
Okay, then it should, I make a motion that we correct the minutes to reflect that there were opposing and supporting views towards critical race theory. And there was no decision made, but there were concerns raised, and they were very strongly voiced. Thank you.
I'll second it. Russ Moffett.
You know, it occurs to me, we didn't make the original motion to accept the minutes, so if Juan and Russ will agree, their motion can read, motion to approve the minutes of June 23rd with the following corrections. And we can put Juan's first, but I'll admit I got reflect that there were supporting and opposing
Views
views.
concerning critical race theory.
Was there more?
That's good.
Okay, and that would go under 8. So under item 8. And then we had under item 1, call to order, business coordinator Sally LaHoo was not present. And then under correspondence to the board, Rose Bisson read another letter from Robert Rader. Did anyone have any other corrections?
Would you please read the statement that Juan made before we vote? I didn't catch it.
Matthew, do you want me to read what I wrote, or do you want to read what you wrote?
Well, I had that, just one asked for the minutes to be corrected to reflect that there were opposing views concerning critical race theory under item number 8.
Juan, did he get it the way you want it?
Opposing and supporting.
Okay, and supporting. Well, there were views supporting and opposing critical race theory. All right.
Being implemented into the school systems in Connecticut. I think that was it. You could, excuse me, Russ, is that okay with you?
Yeah, it's okay with me.
Okay,
What
Thank you.
what you just said, yes.
Juan, may I make make a friendly amendment saying not the schools in Connecticut, but Hampton?
Well, I think the discussion did cover Connecticut. Neil, were you
Okay.
referring to just Hampton or were you referring to Connecticut?
Well, Connecticut is, what was his name? Corliss Ucci. He's the gentleman that sent it in conjunction with CABE that came down from the State Board of Education, basically saying this is what they're going to start doing. They didn't say how they're going to do it, what curriculum they're going to use or any of
Just a
that
minute.
stuff. But so it definitely affects Hampton. It affects all the towns. So I don't know how you would word that.
What do you think, Mary Ellen? Does that answer your concern?
Yeah, that's fine, but I just meant that we only govern Hampton, so that's why I thought of it. But I don't have a big objection to putting it under, saying Connecticut. And Anne's trying to talk. Hold on. Go for it.
Okay,
Okay, so I need to say, just point of clarification, that Corliss Ucci is an administrative assistant. She was the one who typed the letter. She did not compose it. And her name was on the document, but only as somebody who put it together. She didn't compose it at all, just so you know. She's the secretary administrator.
yeah, I believe the document was Robert Rader and Patrice McCarthy. Any other changes to the minutes? Hearing none. Oh. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, I'll do the roll based on where you show up on my computer. Russ,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes.
Mary Ellen,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Susan,
I'm going to abstain.
Matthew,
I also have to abstain.
Juan.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Minutes. Okay. On to superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Dr. Ola?
Frank Ola. My report really is a rendition of what we are going through in terms of the ESSER 3 funds. And it's part of the funding process that all stakeholders have a part in the development of the plan. And so basically it is a review of all of the timelines, the recommendations, and those recommendations that are listed were the result of the first meeting that the administrators had, plus the first meeting that the administrators had with HEA. And HEA and the administration had a second meeting, and the second meeting, they unanimously agreed that the items that were listed were the ones that they felt were critically important. And you received on Tuesday a budget grant document that showed the general pieces of that with the priorities listed, that about as hard a figure for the dollar amount as we could come up with. And we have been cut from 151,000 that was way back about 3-4 months ago when we were first told of the grant, down to 114,528. So we've had to do a number of cuts. So the first piece of material that you got, it was entitled ESSER 3 ARP grant with the number 114,528 in dollars. And then the second paper that you received was the budget details. And those details simply explained how we arrived at those figures. These have been reviewed by the HEA as one of the main stakeholders on August 2nd, according to my timeline. The reopening committee will also be looking at this. They have received these numbers. None of the stakeholders have to vote for it or against it, but they all have to have input in the grant application. And I would like to ask that either during my report or at another point in this, which is number 10, the ESSER 3 grants, if you just get that document out and we can review it and discuss it so that I can prove to the State Department that we have in fact asked you as part of the main stakeholders for your opinions on the funding process and the choices we are making. The issues, and I have to apologize to all of you. I forgot that I had said in the F&O meeting that I would ask that the unit that is the AC, under the AC quality, air quality piece, which is number 6 on your list. I was supposed to ask for not just the air conditioning function, but these splits can also do heating functions. And I was asked by Mary Ellen to find that information out, and I totally forgot about it. I called over and left a message with the company, and hopefully they'll get back to me tomorrow or the next day so I can update the number, not so much the idea of air handling system. So that's my report, unless there's some questions.
Frank, I have one question.
Yes,
I'm just looking over all the paperwork and I just wanted, you had said something and I was doing a little reading. Somebody, and I think that's our August 2nd meeting, needs to look over these priorities that you have listed and just
Yes.
say, yep, is that what you said when you said someone needs to give that okay? That was that meeting, not the board, correct?
that's correct. What we've done, if you as a board feel that there are things that are not appropriate or other things that need to be added to make it more appropriate, we can do that. I will just simply write that down, and then the HEA would have, they have a scheduled meeting in case you guys have made choices different from what's on this piece of paper that I had sent you, so that they can review it. And then the stakeholders at night on the 2nd from the reopening discussion group will review all of these things. And then the final copy will be my application for the grant itself. The other piece to this grant is that if you as a group, or that Rose as the chair of this group, we need letters of affirmation. In other words, yes, the Board of Education or Rose or individuals, however you would like to do it, support the grant application. HEA will do that. The members of the reopening discussion group hopefully will do that, and hopefully you or the or Rose will do it for the Board of Ed. Does that help you?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Mark?
We'll probably discuss it later anyway, but what's the difference on the second form? The total is 193. Was that just based on the previous thought? One total is 114 and the second page it's 193. I was just wondering what the discrepancy is.
I'm not sure. I think you may have, do you have one dated 7/27, or do you have one that's dated?
Well, there's a summary of activity sheet,
Yeah.
but at the very bottom of that sheet, it has a 193 on it.
That was the total that we were estimating And then we had to cut. Remember I said that they reduced our budget? And so we had to
Okay.
cut out air conditioning and that kind of stuff and got it down from 83. And by removing air conditioning from a number of classrooms and putting it only in the classrooms which are occupied all day, every day. So the three team areas were getting the air conditioning and the art room, so that we got it down to that 40,000 mark. So it went down to the actual grant number, which is 114,528. The first document we had to cut. That's what the HEA and the administrators talked about cutting and where we could cut. And so the result of that discussion is the one that's dated 7/27. Does that help? Okay.
I have a question for our, for the chair of our policy committee. So Anne?
Okay,
I'm here.
Thank you. Anne, could you look in the policies and see what our policy about grants is? I'm wondering if the board is supposed to be voting on grants.
My first thought is like, well, I can do that, after the meeting, but.
Yeah, that's what
my
I
first
mean.
thought- Yeah, it's, I don't believe that that's something that we've done on a routine basis, but there are some differences from grant to grant. I don't think we have a blanket policy that covers all grant proposals, but some of them do need a blessing from the Board of Ed, and some of them may or may not specify that. But usually the grant would stipulate, and my understanding is that in lieu of the whole board reviewing and approving, usually it's either the superintendent or the principal or both, or whomever is involved with a particular project would be given the power to act on behalf of the board. So I don't know of an instance when the whole board reviewed a grant proposal.
So we've run into several problems in the past couple of months. And before I recommend a change in our policy, I'd be interested in being sure what the policy is. So if you wouldn't mind finding that out, and if you wouldn't mind forwarding it to me, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I can look for that. I think it's quite possible that we don't have a single policy that covers.
Bless you.
Okay, then that's what you'll find.
Rose, I have it
Rose-
on my machine. I can send it out right now if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, if you'll send it to my email. Thank you, Sally. Never mind,
Yeah,
Ann.
did you say-
I didn't hear Ann.
I'm sorry, did you get the policy?
Anne wants to know if Sally said we have a policy.
Sally is sending me what we have. So I'll be able to look at it and know if I want to make any recommendations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so I may not have anything.
Yes,
Right.
you're off the hook.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, did anyone have any questions for Frank other than what's been asked already? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to, I'm sorry. We'll move on to principals report.
I'm going to speak for the principal's report. Sam is actually on a ferry boat at this point on vacation, and she's unable to get come into the meeting. So her report is a relatively short one, listing of her activities, but the numbers, I sent you a list of numbers of students in our school, and the principal's report was done on July 17th. And at this point, there are a couple of changes because of students who have come in between the time the report was made and the date of this meeting. So I sent you something dated the 27th, and that's the most updated number of students.
Could we review those numbers, Frank?
We could, I believe the changes now. Okay. Now I just have to find the document.
I printed it out, but looking at it, I noticed the two bottom lines are missing, so otherwise I would tell.
Okay. Sally, do you have that report? Because I don't have it right in front of me at this.
No, it's not the report we need, it's the email,
No, I know. The email of that came from Lisa.
right? Here, I just, oh
Do
no.
you
I
have it in
found
front of
this.
you?
Yeah,
Do you want me to read it? I have it.
okay,
good.
yes, Mary Ellen, thank you.
Thank you.
It says, "Hi, Frank. There are 5 special ed students that have moved on to 7th grade. The upcoming year student count as of today date is 75, not including STEM students. There are 5 students entering or already attending STEM. We have 6 paras in school and 2 open positions." Now I'm going to read the grades and the numbers. Pre-K 9, K 8, first 8, second 12, third 10, fourth 10, fifth 6, sixth 12.
Okay. We have 1 outplaced and 5 at STEM. And the 2,
So, I'm sorry. Go on, Frank, I'm sorry.
now, the para positions,
Oh, let's stay on enrollment, okay?
okay, sorry, yep,
So the students attending school at Hampton Elementary School will be 75. And there will be 6 outplaced students. So our district will be 80 children as it stands right now.
as it stands now. No, 81,
Okay.
6 plus the 75.
Oh, it's not 5, it's 6. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, you have 1 outplaced plus the 5 STEM.
Okay, so we have, so the district has 81 children. The school has 75.
Physically in the building as of the 27th.
Of July.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes. I'll put that down here. 7/27/21. Okay, now you can go on. Thank you.
Oh, the para, it says 2 open positions. She used the word open kind of, Lisa used the word open loosely. We have 1 para position that's no longer required because the student has moved on to 7th grade who had a 1-to-1 para. And the quote unquote open position is because at the end of the year, we had a para who has left us. Has to be replaced.
Okay, so the position is still needed in the school.
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Those numbers are always a big deal for us. Okay. I think we inadvertently left off the special ed director's report. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
of course, I'm sorry, Mark, yes.
Mark Becker. Dr. Ola, can you just talk to Sam, or maybe you can help, but a couple parents have asked and pointed out that the school calendar for this coming year is not on the website or hasn't been sent out. So parents aren't really sure the first day of school.
Okay.
So
We
can
will
make sure we get that out to the.
I will certainly do that. I didn't realize the first day of school is, believe it or not, August 25th.
Which I think is consistent with Parish Shell, but
Yes, well, that, and it's EastCon. So the first 2 days of faculty or staffing are the 23rd and 24th PD and preparing the classrooms. The 25th is the first full day for the school children. There is another issue that we may do not have to address at this point, but we have a new holiday, which is Juneteenth. But because our school year ends very early, because Labor Day is so late this year, okay, that the 19th of June, which is a Sunday, so it's a federal holiday and a state holiday on the 20th, which is Monday, does not impact students unless we have snow days. So as we get closer to the end of the school year, we may have to modify the calendar if we have snow days that then bring us way past that 20th day, not 20th day, the June 20th, which is a federal and state holiday. Okay. But thank you. I didn't realize it's not there, and I will make sure it's there.
And it can go out on that email blast thing.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you. If you ever see those kinds of things, you know, I don't necessarily always daily look at the website. So anything that you see, please let me know, whether that's a meeting or just, you know, text me or email me, and we'll fix it right away. The ESSER grant will be up there.
Okay, Juan, you have a question for Frank?
No, I don't.
Well, your hand is, oh, wait a minute. No, it isn't. That was my cursor was on your space. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
no problem.
Okay, so we'll move on. As I said, that it was an oversight. We left out the Director of Special Services report. So I don't want to drop one on her real quick to do off the top of her head, but if someone has a question, this would be a good time to ask her a question. Are there any questions for Judy? Apparently not. You're off the hook there, Judy. Thank you. Okay, business managers report. Mrs. LaHoo?
I'm here. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer?
Well, I'd like to say I like this new format. I found it easier to read and very informative.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? I think next month is going to be the big month when we find out how we closed out the year.
Yes, we're not quite there yet.
Yeah. So we'll look forward to that. Okay, we'll move on to discussion and possible action on the resignation of Rachel Porter. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we accept the resignation of Rachel Porter with appreciation for her service.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Susan Lovegreen.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Russ? I'm sorry, Russ, if you answered, I didn't.
Sorry, yes, yeah.
Okay, Neil,
Yes.
Mary Ellen,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Juan.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. And the position has been posted. Where has it been posted, Frank?
CT Reap, our website, Indeed. Sally, any other ones?
The CEA,
Oh, CEA, yeah.
as well as, to all our in-house staff as well.
Yes, the house, it's posted internally.
Okay. And I think this is a great time for our, I can't remember the name of the committee. The committee that Juan is now the chair of, that's going to help us increase the diversity of our staff. This is a great opportunity.
Minority recruitment.
You what?
Minority recruitment.
Oh, thank you very much, Matthew. So we'll look forward, Juan, to your helping us with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Any further Mary Ellen? Mary Ellen? You're,
Go ahead, Ann.
Anne.
Take that notice to the chair of, well, I think she's an associate dean or something at Eastern, because they have an early childhood program, and many of the teachers here actually have some connections with Eastern. So I just wanted you to know that I did that and I got a response.
Thank
And
you.
they've been focusing on diversity. So
Wonderful. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to discussion and possible action on reductions of the Board of Education's approved 2021-2022 budget. So Mrs. LaHoo got additional information from Parish Hill, and based on that, she believes that we will meet MBR with the budget that was passed. And since we're meeting MBR, it's time for us to discuss and hopefully act on the cuts so that we can get going on the budget. So we had two documents that came to us. Two documents that came to us. One is the administrative proposal for 2021-2022 budget reductions, and it's dated July 26, 2021. And we've had two additional students accepted into STEM. So instead of cutting 100,000, we need to cut 110,000. Does everyone have the administrative proposal, that document?
Yes.
Okay, great. And the second document, well, it's not a document, I guess. We had an email. The board at its last meeting chose not to reduce one bus. So I didn't think it was reasonable to come back with recommendations to reduce that included that. I'm not saying we can't change our mind and reduce the bus, but I think we need to know if we don't reduce the bus, what else would be cut. So that is what is in that email. Does anyone have any thoughts on what we should do?
Rose,
Yes, Frank.
just Francola, just so that everybody is aware, I don't remember to whom I said this. I think it was the F&O meeting. But I did call East Con, and if we cut that third bus and parents find that they are objecting to that, and you choose to put the bus back in the budget, let's say in October as the it gets darker and colder, they could arrange for that. They need enough time to know that, but there is that possibility. Problem, of course, is how do we pay for it? But which I think is a piece of information that's important when you make discussions about going from 3 to 2 buses.
I think that's a clever option that we can try it. And if it doesn't work out, we can go back, because that's been our worry, that if we cut it, there's no way to get it back until the next year. So thank you for pursuing that, Frank.
What we assume is that as it gets colder and darker, and parents realize that their children are getting home in the dark, some of the parents will choose to pick up their child at the end of the school day. So there may, again, even though it might have a problem, there may not be an issue because parents have stepped in and taken charge of picking up their child.
Mark?
Just a question, Dr. Oler, did you have a chance to talk to the superintendent from Eastford by any chance?
Eastford, was I supposed to do that too?
Yeah, just, you had said were gonna have an upcoming meeting, and I had mentioned that they had gone from 3 to 2 buses recently and had some learning curves, so.
Oh, yes, they had they had a problem. It lasted a couple of months, and then the parents basically, which is where I got the idea, the parents basically adjusted, and most of the children who were of concern were very young, and so the mother was at home anyway. And so that's what they found their experience to be. But it did take a full year for them to get everybody attuned to that change. The other thing that they need to understand also, or you need to understand, is if we do that, there is no impact on the high school runs because the kids get on and out the bus in seconds. All right, there's no dilly-dallying. As there are with the little kids who have trouble just getting up the steps of the bus and mommy waves and those kinds of things. So the algorithm that EastCon uses to determine the bus runs is longer for the younger the students. So that's a piece of the puzzle. And then the other part is that we would have to extend as a document that I sent to you that was developed by Mary Ellen that showed the opening and closing of school about 15 minutes later in the morning and later in the afternoon for the closing.
Okay, so does anyone have any ideas on what cuts we should make to come up with the $110,000 that we have to cut? This is the board members. Mary Ellen?
Can I ask if we try to reinstate the bus? I noticed that some of the items on the other list, the additional options, involve putting some of that money over to ESSER 3, but can we do that if we've already submitted the grant? No, we can't.
No,
So where would we come up to close to $50,000
it would seem to me
in
that
October, November?
I'm sorry. It would seem to me you'd have to go back to the town. I don't see any other way to do that unless there's something that we have not anticipated, like a family of 5 kids leave, 3 of whom are special ed. Who knows? I just don't know. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be, EastCon can do it. Where we can find the money is the huge problem for bringing the 3rd bus back into service.
So I'm not thinking it would be close to $50,000 that we'd have to find, because we'd already have a certain amount of days into the district. But we could do things like field trips.
Right.
We could cut field trips. How much money would be left in PD if we cut 6,850?
Sally?
I think there's the full amount in there. Checking right now.
We do have a lot of PD that we're looking at ESSER funds too. So some of that PD could be dropped if we needed to.
Okay. So we'll just add it quickly. So that's 5,000. Now, wait, I'm sorry, not yet. It will be when I say, I thought we don't need to pay for a CODA supervisor this year.
We don't.
So there's 3,780. Add to that the 1,325, and we've got 5,000 there. If we add the, let's say 6,800, what did I say? We had 5 plus 6 is 11. So 11,850 there. Equipment maintenance. What kind of equipment is that, Frank?
Well, one never knows. The problem is anything within the building equipment that is not covered by the MCOR. MCOR is our HVAC and systems repair people. We have a contract with them. Anything above and beyond the normal contractual time of doing anything that has to do with belts, the furnace, those kinds of things.
That's actually a different line.
Right.
The equipment maintenance is actually the tractor, I think the microscopes, the scale in the nurse's office. That's usually about it. So it's mainly tractor maintenance.
Which we could, the problem is if we have large expenses other than that line, just remember lines can be moved. We have other repairs that need to be done, like the Ansel system. We didn't know that we had to get that done. That's not covered by the MCOR piece. It's a totally different piece. We've had trouble with our fire alarms. And for the high humidity up in the attic has caused false fire alarms, probably about 4 or 5 so far this summer.
Wow.
And we had to get those things repaired. I haven't yet gotten a bill from Fast, which is the company that repairs that stuff. So I am dubious about taking away from, regardless of what the repair dollars are meant for, they have often been used for other lines, and therefore we ask you to move it at the end of the year.
Okay, so if we leave that in, so we're up to, so I went ahead, took out the general supplies, and that put us at 13,250. I'll take the 500 instructional supplies, that's 18,250. Expendable equipment supplanted to, well, if we lose expendable equipment, we're up to 22,500 and 6,000 on textbooks. We could still have 26,250 to go toward the bus if it didn't work. And if we're thinking that that it's not going to work because of the time the children get home, then the spring wouldn't be a problem. So I would think we would have plenty if we cut all this stuff. I'm not saying I'm happy about it. I'm not saying I think it's a good idea. I'm just saying it's doable. Right now, we're making choices about bad things to cut.
Correct.
We don't have any happy thing to cut here. So that could be an option. Does anyone on the board have a suggestion what we do?
Rose, Juan,
Yes.
okay. I think that we should at least try to see and adapt to the schedules of the buses if we only have 2. Darkness is always going to be a problem. It's normal for winter time. I also feel that we can cut the teacher, the the art teacher and the gym teacher more. And I was gonna ask, when did we put the business coordinator on 40 hours?
What?
I have a piece of paper here before me, the Hampton Board of Education 12-month non-union employee benefits.
Right, Ron, what that's saying is that any benefits that that position receives is based on 40 hours. So any benefits would be prorated from 40 hours.
Okay, but how many hours are you actually working now?
29.75.
Okay, because this is reflecting 40 hours, and I understand what you're saying to me now. Okay, thank you. But I still think that we can adapt with the bus, and we can't do nothing about winter. And I think the parents will adjust as we go along. But I think the art teacher and the gym teacher shouldn't be teaching reading or writing.
They won't be.
Okay, this
In this,
coming year.
yes, that's
Right,
correct.
okay.
That's
But I
correct.
still think they're there more than they really need to be. Thank you.
So I guess what we're looking for right now is suggestions of what we're going to cut. And I wasn't clear, Juan, you're saying we should reduce art and PE, but you didn't really give me a figure. Do you have a figure in mind?
Well, I think we could reduce them to half of what it is right now, and we'd still, the kids would still have all the allotted time to do art and to do gym. And that way we could use the person who's doing the computer stuff to help in the classrooms more, because he's qualified to do math. He's qualified to do other duties besides what he's doing right now.
So I don't believe we can reduce art if we have COVID restrictions. And
Okay.
I don't think that we can count on not having them because children cannot be vaccinated. And PE isn't just PE, it's health. So all the kids need to go to both PE and health. So I'm pretty sure that that's cut to about what we can cut it.
Okay, but a classroom teacher couldn't they also teach health if it was built into the schedule?
I don't believe I think we need to have someone certified in health at the State Department regulation.
I'll have to check on that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. If you would check on that, that'd be great.
Well, just
Yes,
a
Frank?
point of information, just remember that by contract, every teacher has to have a planning period every day. So therefore, we need to be able to cover every teacher team with some activity for those students, which is why, for example, in art, you do half the class because of COVID, the other half goes to health, and then vice versa. And remember, none of our students are immunized or vaccinated, I guess is the right word. And so therefore, we have to continue that. And our plan is to continue that and review it. So as of January 1, 2022, if there are any changes in any vaccination changes or masking changes or CDC directives that change, we can do that. Right now, we cannot. So the 0.4 and the 0.7 are required. That's why we put that down as cuts. The other cuts that the administrators have given to you is they are basically positions and health insurance and those kinds of things that we know because of changes in the numbers of people or in changes in choices that teachers are making relative to their insurance, we know that we can cut those. So the biggest nut to crack here is going down to 2 buses. I think we all agreed that art and PE health needs to be cut down. And the para position is another concerning position, but with other cost factors and we have to get down to that 110,000 mark, I think that the 8 lines that we have recommended are the best and least impactful lines that we can use to cut to that 110.
Dr. Ola, Juan. So here's a problem I have. These kids are together in class all day. Why can't they just take gym and art like they would be normally together anyway? And basically, in those grade levels, what you're teaching, whether you're a 5th grader or a 6th grader, or a 2nd grader, or a 3rd grader, it's basically almost the same concepts that it can be fine-tuned if you wanted to do that. So I don't understand why we have to separate them for their special when they're together the rest of the day.
Because they're in a double classroom.
The art
Okay,
room is too small. The
so,
art room is too small to have all of the kids at once and do COVID distancing.
but, okay, health can be done in the gym. You have lots of room in the gym without COVID
Okay.
restrictions. And I'm almost done. And the other thing, art could be on a cart, and that way they could stay in the classroom and the kids would just be already spaced out. Thank you.
I think Juan is making suggestions. I think that would be, I personally would say that that's inappropriate, but certainly you as a board can make those decisions.
What's inappropriate, Frank?
Cutting in half so that an art teacher only comes in 1 day a week and the PE teacher only comes in 1.5 days a week. If we cut the 0.4 and the 0.7 FTEs, then that, I believe, is what he is implying. And I would not support that at all as your superintendent, but it's your decision.
Is that what you're suggesting, Juan, that we cut the 0.4 to a 0.2 and the 0.7 to a 3.5 or 0.35?
I'm not doing points. What I'm doing is I'm just like off the top of my head, these kids are together. If you put art in a cart, they would get their art like they were supposed to be without being separated and without having to have the need to have that person there to do the other half of the class after the one set of the class walks out. So that's what I'm not understanding. What I am understanding also is that basically they're there to provide prep for the other teachers. And I'm like, oh, we can work around that, or we have to find a solution to that problem, because that shouldn't be why they're there, because we're covering other people's preps.
I agree with you there. Mark?
One, I just want to, I just want to say that the health curriculum is different per grade. I mean, the 5th and 6th graders are getting different curriculum from health, and you might not be wanting to teach one grade what the other grade is being taught because it's age appropriate, and it's the same. It goes down multiple levels. I mean, you can't be teaching the same thing to a 3rd grader that you're teaching to the 6th grader. So it's definitely different curriculums for that. But also, like, you know, I just get frustrated when we only ever talk about cutting. You know, why can't we talk about enhancing? You know, I talked to some people over the summer where they moved to town because at one point we had a Spanish program we used to offer in the elementary school. And yet every single year we cut more, we cut a teacher, we cut a this, we cut a that, we're gonna cut a bus. You know, it's just, it's regretful that this board is getting to a point where we are actually recommending just, we keep gouging. You know, I joined the board because I am a proponent for the students and I want to see the school strive, not that I want to continue to gut. So I would prefer not to make any additional cuts to teachers, but I will say that, you know, I was holding out and I probably was not in favor of reducing the bus at the last meeting because I did not think that the $100,000 was in compliance with NPR at the time. And I, appreciate Sally looking into that. So, instead of cutting additional programs and additional parts of that budget, I would probably prefer to go down the discussion of reducing a bus. I mean, I can't bring myself to make a motion for that, but I wouldn't probably oppose it for this meeting.
Rose, may I answer?
You may, but please make it brief so other
you.
board members
No
can,
problem.
yeah.
The part of the problem and why we're doing all these cuts, and I too, I was a school teacher. I understood when we had cuts, it hurt. But the thing is, we have to be sustainable and we have to have more kids because we're like under 100, and that's really hard to try to push your agenda when our population is melting. Thank you.
Are there, Mary Ellen?
Yeah, I also want to say that I believe that the health curriculum is age specific and would not want to reduce or combine different grade levels in the health curriculum. But I also want to make mention about the bus. I haven't decided which way I'll vote on it because I know that that's a substantial amount of money. But I do want to say that if there's children on the bus that are going to be picked up by their parents, I want to say that I kind of think that it may be those families that have parents who are home, who don't both work, and that have a car available. And in some ways, I kind of feel that it's discriminatory who gets to shuffle their kids home. And maybe that will shorten the bus ride for everybody, but I'm going to read the times now. And this is not my figures. This is based on the figures that Dr. Ola gave us back in March. So the afternoon run, I know we're not concerned about Parish Hill, but the afternoon run for Parish Hill would be 1 hour, 49 minutes. On bus 1 and bus 2 would be 58 minutes. Going to school, it's about an hour for each of them. 1 hour, 6 minutes, 1 hour for 9 minutes. Coming home for our students, the Hampton Elementary students, 1 hour, 17 minutes and 1 hour, 26 minutes. And to me, that's very long. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread something. Parish Hill run in the morning, 1 hour, 21 minutes, 1 hour, 3 minutes. It's our elementary kids that have 1 hour, 6 minutes, 1 hour, 9 minutes ride to school. So our kids would be on there 1 hour, 9 minutes and 1 hour and 26 minutes. So that's 2 hours and a half for bus 2 and 2 hours and about 20 some odd minutes on bus 1. And that's a lot of time to spend on a bus. I think it's our obligation to get kids to school. I know it is. That's part of the state statute. I don't know where else we'll get the funds. I do think some parents will start shuffling their kids, and I feel badly for those kids who don't have that resource in their families or their neighbors. That's all. Yeah, Ann wants to speak.
Ann?
Yes, and this is not first, but I'm listening to the discussion about the buses, and I think we need to keep open to the possibility that if we were to reduce the number of buses, that we would end up needing to hire personnel to monitor what happens on a bus, because we're talking in some cases very young children, and there have been times in the past, even with free buses, when we've needed to provide some form of support on the buses, and that is to pay somebody to help on the buses. But overall, I am saddened that we're in the situation of needing to cut such large numbers. And I think it is going to hurt no matter what, but we don't want it to hurt the children primarily. And I think we need to remember that the circumstances are a dynamic process right now, especially with COVID. I mean, there are many factors over which we don't have complete understanding, and nobody does. So we need to be prepared for anything. And I think the school has done well in sustaining quality programming for children in spite of COVID last year. And I would hope that we can, no matter what we cut and how we do it, that we can maintain those priorities of providing for children and families. That's all.
Thank you. Does any board member who hasn't spoken yet wish to speak?
Rose, Matt Flaggart, I'll just say, I kind of, to reiterate what Mark said, I'd rather see us cut a bus than to take any teachers or anything away from the students at this point.
Thank you. Russ? You have to get closer. We can't hear you.
Like having a monitor on the bus. I think that we're going to probably have to have it anyway because of the COVID. They require, the CDC is requiring masks now. So monitors are going to have to oversee that the kids are wearing their masks properly. Anyhow, I don't know how that'll be covered, or whether that'll become money from the feds or not to cover that. But
Thank you.
yeah.
So Neil, yes.
Yeah, more of a question than a comment. How many students did we have on the bus that were tallied, that we figured are actually taking a ride on the bus? I know we have 75, but I'm thinking that we're in the 35 or 40 range or something, that we're actually qualified taking a ride.
I don't know what
Anybody
that
know?
means, qualified taking a ride.
That they not qualified, but how many do we know for sure are actually taking the bus every day? I'm just thinking of schedules. We could do a different schedule and cut the rate of time down a lot. That's my assumption. I don't know that for a fact, but if it's 35 kids on a normal continuous basis, we could contact the parents and say, listen, do we have to go to your place or every day or whatever, and when we're only getting 38 out of the 75 kids on a bus?
Frank, do you know the answer to the question? Do we know about how many kids rode the bus most days?
Last year, you're asking me for a number, and I can't give you a precise number. Anywhere from, I mean, we were as little as 7 at one point, and then there was as many as 18, if I remember correctly. And that's because every kid had to be 6 feet apart, if you remember correctly. And therefore, lots of parents chose to bring their child to school and to pick them up after school because of COVID. This year, it's only 3 feet apart, so we could put 35 on each bus of the 2 buses and still be within that 3-foot limit. Because the 3 feet, you stagger the kids from, in other words, if you have double row and you have a aisle in between, the aisle is almost 2 feet, 2.5 feet, and then you have the 3-foot bus seat and the 3-foot bus seat. So if one child sits right next to the aisle on one side of the bus, the other student sits next to the window, we can put enough students on that bus to make it up to that 30-35 mark. However, how many parents will choose to have their kids on the bus based on the COVID issue without vaccination? I can't answer that question with any certainty.
I have a question.
Rose?
Mary Ellen has a
I-
question, Rose.
I'm sorry, I was muted because my dog barked. Mark had his hand up first, so can we go to Mark first, then you, Mary Ellen? Do you remember having your hand up, Mark?
Yeah, but as the conversation went on, I either got my question answered or was all set, so.
Thank you. Okay, Mary Ellen.
Okay, so quite a while ago, Judy Benson Clark mentioned that other systems were allowing parents to transport and subtracting the kids from the bus list. And somebody was going to check with the state to see if we could do that, like to say that we do not have to transport certain kids. Did we ever get any answer to that?
Mary Ellen, I got just the state guidance and forwarded that to Dr. Ola. I did not go into that specific questioning, and I don't have the expertise or knowledge. It's a good question. I forwarded him something he probably already had available. I don't think I was that helpful.
Now, I think Rose was going to ask our attorney, our school attorney, so she's muted now and not on the screen, so I'll wait for that answer.
Okay.
Because
I'm sorry.
that would really solve things.
And I dropped the ball, so I'm sorry. I have questions into her that she hasn't answered, so I will call tomorrow and do my 2 questions. And help me phrase the other question you'd like me to ask. You want me to ask, is it okay
Whether the
parents to let us know that the bus doesn't have to go to their house every day unless they contact us?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Yes,
ask.
and if we drop the requirement that we provide transportation to all students.
No, we cannot.
You know, parents can,
We cannot.
well, whether they can.
I think the question would be if
whether we
it's
can-
acceptable to have a waiver.
I think
Yeah.
the question is it acceptable if the parents know they're going to drive their kid for us not to send the bus there that day? We cannot have them sign their rights away, I'm sure of that. But we
Okay.
can say, if you need the bus to come to your house, please give us, 24 hours notice, or I don't know, 10 hours notice, whatever notice is. And then we will go there. But if they know the child isn't going to be on the bus, I'm hoping that we don't have to send it there. I think that's might be
Okay,
possible.
thank you.
Okay,
Rose Juan, I think
Yeah.
the original question was to find a legal document that would allow us or notify us as to whether the parents were waiving the kids taking the bus or not. I think that's what we originally spoke about.
yeah, but that we cannot do. Parents cannot be asked to sign their rights away. So they could sign the waiver and then have every legal reason to take us to court if, say, mom broke her leg and couldn't come pick up the kids and we said, oh, you signed a waiver. So we can't. And if other districts do it, I'm sorry. I know districts do a lot of things that we would not do. But I will talk with the lawyer. Okay,
One thing I do want to say that I don't want this to affect attendance in any way, because that's been a big issue with the state about kids not going to school. So I hope we can work this out.
I agree that it should not affect attendance. But let's see if we can work it out. Okay, so I am interested in entertaining a motion about how we're going to cut $110,000 from our approved budget. Does anyone have such a motion?
Actually, Rose, may I ask a question real quick?
Yes, Susan.
I've been taking a few notes and I just want to double check something that you had, I just want to verify something that you had proposed. in the beginning, when you were proposing your cuts, I'm just gonna give you a few for examples, like, maybe the CODA supervisor, which was $3,780. When you totaled that up, were your suggestion, or you were alluding to, just repair for me, that dollar amount, was that to replace the bus? Is that what you were looking at?
Yes, what I
Okay.
did was I went to the list of possible cuts if we did not cut the bus.
Okay, and all right,
And-
cool. That
yeah.
answers my question. And
Okay,
then so in addition to the bus, which is $54,000, because there's a few documents, that's only 54,000 out of the other 110. And I apologize for missing the last meeting, but we're talking about the bus and 54,000, but what about the rest of that? Is that what we're trying to figure out now, or are we looking at that proposed?
yeah, this is the document that was sent with the board packet.
Yep, I have that.
Okay, so I was assuming this was me. I was assuming all those other things would go as written. So when I did the exercise I did, in my mind, I was assuming we would make the cuts as proposed by Dr. Ola.
Dated July 26, 2021.
Yes,
Reduce one bus is number one. Number two, reduce art from 0.5 to 0.4. Okay.
Yep.
That's how I understood it. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
and then if we have to bring back the bus for an amount of time, we could go to the items on the other list that we would then have to cut in order to bring the bus back.
Thank you.
Rose, Juan, can I make a motion that we have a straight up and down vote on what was presented by the superintendent on July 26, 2021?
Absolutely, make your motion.
There you go. I make a motion that we have a straight up and down vote to see where everybody stands on this Hampton Board of Education administrative proposal for 2021, 2022 budget reductions.
May I mean, I said you do it, and that now I'm going to ask if we could just change the wording a little.
Sure.
That you move, we reduce the 2021, 2022 budget as proposed by the superintendent on July 26, 2021.
I'm good with that.
In the
Okay.
amount of $110,000.
Yes. Would anyone like us to read in? Well, you know what we can do? We can send to Matthew a non-PDF copy of the list, and he could include that in the motion as well. Okay, do we have a second for Juan's motion?
Can you just repeat it so I make sure I have it good for the minutes, please? Sorry.
Sure. Juan moved to reduce the 2021, 2022 approved budget according to the recommendations of the superintendent dated July 26, 2021 for a total amount, for a reduction amount of 110,000. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Susan Lovegreen.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call.
Yeah,
Oops,
I have discussion, Mary Ellen.
Okay,
I just want to know, what about the things in the additional options list that we now know we don't need, like the CODA supervisor? Also, the transfer to the cafeteria of $7,550 in equipment and repairs, which we can take out of capital non-recurring. I mean, there are other items, and I don't understand. I know the bus, the 54,000 is the big problem, that those things do not add up to 54,000. But
So
what's the
I'd,
criterion that we're going to use for
I'd like-
reinstating a bus? I mean, is it parent complaint? What is it?
Point of order.
I'm sorry, Juan, what's your point of order?
We were going to vote up and down on that, and right now we're discussing other things that we didn't put on the motion.
My question is about that. It's like, how are we voting for one thing and ignoring the other, I guess? I don't understand it.
So I would like to suggest that the special ed student who moved into town and will cause us some costs, we could use some of the other things for that. We're allowed to say, we know we don't need certain items. We're not allowed to say, oh, by the way, we had an expense pop up, we need to add to the budget. But those expenses do pop up. So I'm thinking if we have a few of these that we're not going to have to spend, they're going to have to go to those other expenses.
Right.
Did that answer your question?
Somewhat. I guess oil is one of those things. So, okay, got it.
Okay, so to answer Juan's concern that we vote, let's take the roll. Does everyone know what we're voting on? Cutting the 110,000 as recommended by the superintendent. So we'll start with Russ.
Yes.
Thank you. Neil?
Yes.
Thank you. Mary Ellen?
I'm abstaining.
Anne?
I'm abstaining.
Mark?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Juan?
Yes.
The motion carries. You call it unanimously when there are abstentions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's unanimous. And it's a quorum of the board. Okay,
Although, if I would like to say, I'm not happy about making any cuts. And I feel like we're choosing between a bad scenario and a worse scenario. So I just feel like we should say that we're saying yes to budget cuts that I'm not really happy making. But it has to be done, and I suppose we have to do it. So
yes,
I just want to say that.
if we had the choice to not cut, we would never do this, but we don't have the choice. Yeah. Okay,
I'd like to say, I would like to say that I never abstain on the board. I just don't make that a practice at all, but I would like my vote to go down as an abstention and not a unanimous vote.
well, then you need to vote no. It won't go unanimously.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I did see abstentions in other minutes, but I'll go with what you said. Okay.
well, it's been my practice, if someone abstains, I don't count them toward whether it's unanimous. If I am wrong in that, I'll ask the lawyer that while I've got her on the phone, then we will certainly go back and I will eat my words. How's that? Before I forget to say that, I will write it on my list so I don't forget. Okay. 10, discussion and review of the ESSER 3 grant proposals and timeline as required for the grant application process. So I thought I printed out everything I needed, but I didn't print out that. Did everyone get a chance to look at the
Yes.
Great. Is there any discussion? On the items, do we agree with the items? Do we think they could be, they should be something else? What are we thinking?
I'm just bringing them back up again real quick. So we talked about them a little bit earlier.
Okay,
Well, I feel as, oh, I'm sorry. May I speak, Rose?
yes, of course, Susan.
Susan Lovegreen, apologies. I believe Frank had said earlier that in meeting with the stakeholders that he's met with up until this point, that these are the recommendations that they're making. I see that there's the enrichment program for next summer. There's the after-school program, a little bit of professional development, which is probably going to be needed. And then I see the rest, the educators workforce, the projectors, improving air quality, and then the playscape to support the school community. If Frank and his team and the other stakeholders at the school are saying that these are their priorities and that's what they want, then I'm fine with that.
Thank you. Okay, one minute, I went to that page too. Is there anyone else who, Mary Ellen?
Yeah, I agree with Susan. This has been worked out with, the administrators and the teaching staff. That's great. The only thing I would say is try to get those mini splits to also heat as well as cool, so that we can maybe save a bit on the oil. And if we need to look at individual thermostats for those classrooms, we can do that also. Not out of ESSER funds, but.
Frank, you want to say something?
I just want to apologize. I did email you back. I apologize that I didn't get that information from you, like I said I would from the F&O meeting. Each of those mini splits in each room has an individual thermostat and an individual controller. So heat and air quality can be controlled by each teacher. And I will get you a number.
But does the mini split have
Does the mini split what?
to include heat?
It can. I have to.
You
get
weren't
the-
sure if it could heat. You were talking only air conditioning rather than heat and air conditioning,
It's a
which
different
is what I
unit.
always think of.
Right, it's a different unit. That's why I have to get a pricing for that different unit. The one that we went for is only air conditioning. There is another unit that is dual, and so I have put a call in. I left a message at the company, and hopefully they'll get back to me tomorrow. So we can.
And if, go ahead.
So that we can see what the numbers are.
And can I? make
So
a
if
comment?
once we get the difference, we can look at sources of funding besides ESSER, or see if it's low enough, if we can put it in the ESSER 3.
Correct.
But yeah, okay, thank you. Anne wants to say something.
Yeah, can I?
Well, I'm concerned because Mark had his hand up first, Ann, and I'd like to go in the order I saw the hands go up, but I'll get to you. Mark?
Is the ESSER, it's COVID related, right? It's a grant to help supplement COVID.
But
So-
because of COVID, that we get the
Right.
money to improve
Okay.
the school and the environment of the school. Yeah.
Okay, so the one area that maybe I would think about is just like the outside of the school. I know in the back playground where we paved, only a certain amount of painting has been done so far. So I don't know if it's worth trying to figure out if we could reinstate like the hopscotch and the Foursquare. I mean, I can try to get to it, but ultimately that might be something that would enable the children to be outside a little bit more. And then also the field in general, the field is not upkept. I mean, the baseball area and stuff like that is completely overgrown, and not really that usable. So these are areas, I mean, I know right now, all the different cohorts are split up at recess into their different teams, and they have to be at the different areas and they can't commingle. So, when they are outside, if they had some better facilities, it'd help enable that. So that would be maybe one area that I would think that we might want to assess whether that was a priority or not.
Just to respond is Francola. The problem is or a solution to that would not be to go to ESSER, but to use we just talked about, and Sally clarified in terms of mechanical materials, we put money aside for the tractor and so forth. That money can then be put towards, rather than in that line, we can put it towards those kinds of improvements in the baseball field, painting lines. Those are not huge expenses like the AC and the other kinds of things here. So those are probably, probably somebody to come out and paint with the spray cans is probably $500, and that gets somebody to come out and redo the field, couple of $1,000s. So those are not huge expenses. Those are the kinds of things that we would be able to use our current funding, now that I know what our budget is, and I can make that happen as quickly as possible. I think it's a good point, and it's a point that none of us have thought about, and I think it's a very valid point, especially the baseball field and the painting. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Anne?
Okay,
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to connect the dots in terms of procedure. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding is that this particular grant does require the stakeholders become familiar and sort of give the grant the blessing of the stakeholders. Is that accurate?
Correct. That was my superintendent report.
Right. That's what I thought. I just wanted to put it on the table, because not every grant requires that, but that, in reading through things, preparing for tonight's meeting, that was my impression. So I just wanted to say it out loud. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion, Anne?
Hear a motion?
Well, yes, the way we give our stamp of approval is we make a motion. And you just said we need to give.
So I move that we approve the recommendations as presented by the superintendent.
For the ESSER 3 grant. Do we have a
Yes.
second? Do we have a second?
Susan Love Green, I'll second.
Okay. Kathy Donahue had her hand up, and I called on board members first, and she had to leave the room. So I just want to say I would have called on her. If she comes back, I will. Yes, Mary Ellen?
are we in discussion now?
Yes.
Okay, so if we vote on approving this, which I do approve, but and then we find out that we can fit in for a very reasonable cost, the heating, it says on this, improve air quality by installing air conditioning units in the classrooms. If we change it to mini splits, it'll cover both heat and air. My question is, if we approve it like this, can changes be made afterward? Because we're looking for the endorsement of the board and the endorsement of the reopening committee.
So should we, instead of move to approve, should we move to endorse? Would that work?
I don't know. I mean, can it be changed? I think Frank had his hand up to answer.
Yeah, I would prefer that you not, which is why I wrote the piece as I did, discussion review. You don't have to approve it. You need to just give us input. Mark, for example, just gave us some input in terms of what he thought would be appropriate. And then if you feel that what has been discussed and you feel that it covers what the not only the faculty but the administrators feel is appropriate under the grant priorities, then a vote of consensus or consensus vote, something like that. You don't have to actually approve it, because once you do, then it's going to be very difficult for me to then go to the reopening discussion group and say, okay, here's the approved plan, and there's nothing you can do other than say, oh yeah, that's a nice idea. So
Well,
I would prefer to leave it open.
I would disagree with you because we can have a special meeting if the grant changes. So, yeah.
It's up to you. You guys are in charge here.
So I want to know if Anne would like to change her motion to say, what's the word, endorse, support?
Support. Mhm.
Well, Anne's
Endorse.
gets to pick the word.
I'm fine with support.
Okay.
If that's.
And Susan, is it all
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes.
Okay, so we're still in discussion. Kathy, you left the room when it was your turn, so you didn't get a chance to say. I usually wouldn't ask for audience participation in the middle of the meeting, but this time we will. So,
I'm sorry, I was just pointing at Steve to turn on the fan. He had come in the room. I wasn't raising my hand to speak.
oh, I'm so sorry. Okay.
Thanks.
In that case, do we have further discussion from the board? Hearing none. Matthew, would you read the motion for me again so I get it right?
Yeah, certainly. I had that. Ann Grunberg moves to support the ESSER ARC 3 grant as presented by the superintendent.
Thank you. Okay, I'm calling the roll. Russ,
Yes.
Neil,
Yes,
Mary Ellen,
Yes,
Anne,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Juan,
Yes, and Mark, when you paint the Foursquare and hopscotch, I'll be glad to help you.
I think Mark said thank you. I didn't hear it come through, but is that what you said, Mark?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great.
No problem.
Okay, the motion passes. As an aside, I quickly Googled Robert's rules and I believe I am right that an abstention is not a vote. So it does not interfere with a unanimous vote.
Excuse me, Rose? This is
Yes,
I do want to encourage anyone that's willing to write a letter of support for any piece of the grant or the full grant. We're asked to submit those with the grant application.
okay, and who should they be addressed to?
Send them to me.
Perfect.
And I'll
Is
just forward them as part of the grant application itself.
Sally, does that need to be on letterhead, HES letterhead, if it's coming from a board member, or does that matter?
No, just sign it. You know, you could put your name on the top, and then at the bottom, when you sign it, member of the Hampton Board of Education will be fine. You don't, unless you want a letterhead.
No, just asking.
Okay.
Thank you
I'll
all.
write a letter, Frank. I'll email it to you.
Great, thank you.
How are you going to email your signature?
I'll just pick a font that is in script.
Okay. All right, we'll go on to item 11. Discussion of new policy requirements as requested by Dr. Gruenberg. Dr. Gruenberg, would you like to talk about this?
And you're not muted.
Okay, yeah, and I thank you for putting that on the agenda, and I'm not envisioning needing to spend a huge amount of time on this, but I thought it was important, especially at this juncture, and even this week with the changes, the requirements for mask wearing changing just a couple of days ago. So I think it's time for us to be aware of the changes and at the same time to stay focused on what we know to be best practice, because we did not always, I'm trying to figure out how to say this diplomatically. We followed the guidelines, but I think we actually many times implemented strategies that were on a higher level than some of the executive orders. So we did not assume that we had to follow everything lockstep, but I'm really wanting to hear what you all have to say. I did schedule a meeting, policy committee meeting, in the library, the Fletcher Memorial Library, and I spent a lot of time there, just being there, being available to community members. And I was by myself, but I didn't feel lonely exactly because I was exploring the internet using the devices that were available in the library. And there are a lot of resources on COVID and, just oodles of resources, many of which are coming from CAPE, but many of which are coming from other sources as well. So I just wanted to touch base about those and address any questions that anybody has.
I so apologize. I'm not clear on what you're asking, Ann.
I just want to sort of tip the hat to the need to stay tuned to this, because if we as citizens who are volunteer board members are trying to keep up with what's going on, with the different executive orders and mandates and differences of perspective and trying to decide what's best, recognizing that we're in the middle of a surge and we're doing pretty well, all things considered, but there are issues nationally with some of the states in particular. I mean, there are real concerns scientifically about, some of what's going on with the health community. So I just thought it was important that we not forget all of this. And right now we're short-staffed. We lost our trustee person, Rachel, who was very good at organizing a lot of the protocol for policy implementation and monitoring, to make sure that we're up to date.
Okay, thank you.
But does that help at all? Not really.
Well, I think it does. I just want to add that executive orders for us as a Board of Education, it holds the weight of law. So if an executive order says we will follow CDC, then we're going to follow it. I think any change. Please let me finish. Please. Any changes we tended to have made up until now, we've been tighter. We've not been looser than what is recommended. And I would assume
And
that
that's exactly what I'm trying
that
to
would
say.
be what we would finish. That we would continue.
Right. We were, that's what I was trying to say in terms of our standards have been very high.
Thank you.
So thank you for articulating it better than I did.
Okay, are there any further discussions? Then we're going to move on to discussion and possible action on the continued remote Zoom Board of Ed meeting. So there's two reasons why I'd like to suggest we continue on Zoom. One is that there is no vaccine for the children. So if we're meeting in public and we have, we're bringing adults into the building who are not part of the usual building, and we have parents maybe or citizens coming in the audience, we're introducing a lot of people into the environment that maybe we don't want to do for our students, for our students and anyone who's unvaccinated. The second reason is on a personal level. I'm not willing to make my health issues part of the town's permanent record. I'm willing to discuss them after the meeting. I'll share with anyone. I'll stay after the meeting if you would like, but I cannot meet in a room full of people. And I won't be able to for at least 3 months, possibly longer. So it would make it a lot easier on me if we could have Zoom meetings. And I'd like to ask if it would be possible for those 3 months, if we could change to Mondays. Again, I can explain why that would be necessary after the meeting when it's no longer being recorded, so it doesn't become part of the permanent town record. But those are my two requests. Does anyone have anything they want to say about that?
Hi,
Susan?
Rose. All I want to say is that's fine with me.
Thank you, both of them, Zoom and Mondays?
Yes, Zoom and Mondays are fine for me.
Okay. Is Ann ready?
Oh, Ann, you're unmuted.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering at some point if we might want to consider doing a hybrid version of the meeting, or would that not be an option?
Well, it would be an option, but it wouldn't address the first concern of bringing adults in the building when we have children who cannot be vaccinated in the building. All right, thanks.
I'll just say Ann said that answers her question. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else?
And I'll
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
say that Mondays are fine with me and Zoom is fine with me.
Okay, so rather than do a straw poll, we can do a motion if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. Susan Love Green. Just for the next 3 months, is that what we're gonna set it for?
Okay, and we can see if we need to go further.
All right, if that's okay, I can just do it. All right, so I make a motion for the next 3 months. The next 3 Board of Ed meetings that they continue on Zoom, and we have them on the third Monday,
Last.
thank you, Monday, trying to figure that out, of every month.
Second, Juan Arriola.
Thank you, Juan. All right, let's go through. We'll start with Russ.
Can I?
Oh,
Discussion? Can I
yes,
bring up discussion, please?
Yes.
I looked at the calendar. There is another town meeting on the 4th Monday of the month. There is none on the 3rd Monday of the month.
That's in August?
I know it makes it more. And
well, August, we could go
any
to the,
Monday. There's regular,
oh,
There's a
Every-
regularly scheduled meeting of a commission on the fourth Mondays.
what
There's
commission?
nothing scheduled. Planning and zoning.
It has been my experience that other commissions don't worry about meeting on our days. Now, so I wouldn't have a big problem, but on August, we could go to the 30th. That's the 5th Monday. So there shouldn't be anyone there.
The motion reads the last Monday of the month.
Oh, so that would be the 30th. Thank you, Matthew. That would be the 30th, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. It would be September and
No.
it would be October that the last Monday is also the 4th Monday. Well, why don't we take a vote? And if people don't like it, they'll, I
Okay,
beg your pardon, Mary Ellen?
Ann's got a question.
Okay,
We want to stay with the 7 o'clock start time, or did we want to consider like starting at a different time?
Anne asked us if we wanted to consider starting at a different time.
Doesn't matter to me.
Is there anyone who would like to start at a different time? Why don't we
I'd like to
leave?
Start early.
Ann said, go ahead. Go ahead, Ann.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to start earlier if people, if we're adjusting the schedule, and we could try it for this period of time, but if we started at 6 or something, or 6:30, but I would defer to other people's wishes here. I'm just putting it on the table.
I would have trouble starting at either 6 or 6:30. How do other people feel?
I'd prefer to just leave 7.
Okay,
7's fine with me.
all right, let's leave it as it is then. But let's take the vote on Zoom in the last Monday of the month. Russ? Is Russ there? I don't see him. There he
Yeah,
is. You moved out of the frame.
I'm sorry.
I don't want him sitting too close to me.
Oh, okay then.
Is that why you're moving?
Neil,
Yes,
Mary Ellen,
Yes,
Anne,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
that is a yes. And Juan,
Yes,
the motion carries unanimously. Thank you all.
Just so you know, I'll publish a new calendar and send it over to the town.
And if you do that tomorrow, they will not be special meetings because, 1 minute, I'm going the wrong way. So if you do it tomorrow, that's the 29th, and our meeting would be August 30th. So that's a month. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's great. Thank you. Okay, now on to committee, subcommittee, and liaison representatives. Communications.
Nothing to report.
And Matt, I'm remembering that you said that you're not able to be chair and we're going to have to get you some help for that, and I will. I
Thank you.
just did that. You're welcome. Finance and operations.
Yeah, so we met last week, discussed some of the budget discussion that we had tonight. As far as other things going on, Dr. Ola has ordered at the first round of a play set and playground single standalone unit, and we're looking to add more of those based on the ESSER funds. As far as the front parking lot. Alan Kayla actually joined us, and he's not willing to entertain an idea of paving that right now. But we still do have the municipal funds. And actually, I don't know, Sally, if you can help out. I'm not sure what's left in the municipal fund. I guess I could reach out to Ellen, but
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can send it to you tomorrow.
all right, thank you. That was about it.
So I will once again state my concern that it is brought up at Board of Finance meetings that that money was put aside for the Board of Ed, but the Board of Ed isn't allowed to use it. So I have trouble with it saying it's put there for the Board of Ed. Okay, policies?
Okay,
Yes, I posted a policy committee meeting in, I believe it was June 30th. And I was available to people, and I've already reported on that. I do think it's imperative that we continue to get organized and move ahead with keeping up with some of the policy requirements, especially regarding COVID. And I've had some conversations with Lisa Sewell in the office. So she's going to be doing some of the work, and that's very much appreciated. Thank you.
Who had the conversation with Lisa?
I did.
Well, Anne, you're not her supervisor.
Oh, just so you know, I did follow
No,
up.
So Frank, you okayed it?
Yes, Lisa and I spoke about it, and Lisa has been directed to do support for policy and special education.
Okay, I apologize, Anne.
Yeah, well, thank you, because I was very careful about not stepping on people's toes.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been several months that I've been working up to this, so thank you, Frank, for your support.
You're welcome.
okay. Thanks for your report, Ann. Ad hoc minority recruitment.
Hi, I met with Dr. Ola on Friday, the 23rd of this month, and I asked him for what resources that could be used. I'm also going to talk to people at Eastern. I spoke with former teachers who have friends who have people graduating from college. Please contact us. I'm going to speak with my former union president and see if she has any other ways that I can get to this. I'm sorry I didn't invite anybody to the meeting. I just wanted to see what was available and what could be done. So we're looking forward to doing something about it. But I had a question for Dr. Grunberg. She said that she had spoken to somebody from Eastern and that she had gotten a response. So who did she speak to and what was the response she's talking about?
It primarily was not a conversation one, and I worked at Eastern for close to 30 years. So I had the email address. So when we got the email note about job openings, I forwarded that because that was a public notice. My understanding, it was not a private communication. So I just forwarded it as is. I didn't editorialize in any way, shape, or form. It was more like an FYI communication. So I didn't actually have a conversation. I got an email response. Thank you.
Who was the person?
And that she shared. She being the chair. I'm not sure what her role is, but I think she was chair of the education department and also associate dean. So we worked together for years. And so she just confirmed that she received it. That's all.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay. So from my taking classes at Eastern, I know that there is a public roster. And you can look up who the chair of the education department is, Juan. Would you like me to do that and send you over the name and phone number?
Sure, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, ad hoc superintendent's evaluation. We haven't met. Cabe,
CABE is having an event next week. I believe it's the 5th of August in Westbrook. And it's free for members of CABE Express, and that's us. So it's usually a really wonderful event, and I would encourage anybody to go if you possibly can. It is professional development, and it's covering some really crucial issues, including diversity. So that's just one of many events that are happening. There have been webinars keeping up with the legislative changes.
okay. I also know that they have upcoming so you want to be a board member workshop for anyone who's considering on running for the Board of Ed. And if anyone knows someone who's running who might be interested, I'd be happy to forward to them the registration forms for that workshop. And I believe because we're CABE Express, people from our town can go for free. Do you think I'm right, Ann?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's a big help.
I think I know they can go to the Westbrook event for free. But as far as the candidate, I think that might be free anyway, because it's not a meal. It's an outreach event, and it's very useful. In fact, Matt, I think I remember you from one of those sessions years ago. Is that accurate that you?
Yes, 4 years ago I attended.
Yes,
I attended
I
one
think I was
in
there too.
yeah, I attended one in 1991 when I first ran for the board, and I found it very helpful.
Good, yeah, and I think they do try to keep them up to date. They're good
Yeah.
opportunities for advocating.
Yeah. Does
I
that
think it
conclude?
might be virtual this.
Oh, I
Sorry?
don't know. I was going to ask if it concluded your report.
I can conclude my report if you wish.
No, I guess I meant, putting it a different way is, did you have more to report on?
I'm giving you the short version just because it's been a long meeting,
Okay, thank you, Ann.
but I'm willing to answer if anybody has a question.
Great. Anyone have a question for Ann?
I have a question, Juan. When is Westbrook and where?
Okay, when is, I believe, the 5th, and it's in the afternoon going through dinner time. It's at the Water's Edge Resort on Route 1, I believe, in Westbrook. So it's not a bad drive if you don't mind driving on the highway.
What time does it
And you can
start?
take back roads, but it takes long.
What time does it start?
About 1 o'clock, and it's online. So if you were to Google it, it's a leadership symposium.
Juan, I think you got an email from
And if you have-
Cabe
Okay,
telling you about it.
problem. Thank you.
I don't remember who sent it.
Okay, thank you.
I think Lisa Steimer has been involved with organizing it, but it just is generically from CABE. So
Yeah.
if you were to just,
It's under upcoming events. We get emails that say upcoming events. It's in there.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah, but it is right around the corner. So if you're interested in going, you want to act fast.
Okay, thank you, Ann. On to East
Thank
Con.
you.
Yeah, Rose, Judy has her hand up. I don't know if it's timely to Cabe or not before we move on.
I was just going to say to Anne and Juan and the board that I've had the opportunity to go to Water's Edge a number of years, and it's one of my favorite professional development activities. It's usually very high quality. The last one I went to was on all kinds of inclusion and diversity. And the opportunity to really learn from other towns and board members, in my opinion, is second to none. So I just was going to recommend that. That's all.
Thank you, Judy. Mary Ellen?
Thank you so much for saying that.
I don't know if you heard Ann said thank you so much for saying that. EastCon is currently working on evaluating the board, evaluating the executive director, and new bylaws, which will be sent out to all district superintendents, board chairs, and representatives currently going to the executive committee. The new bylaws, if passed after 30 days of being out to those three entities, would make a change in that there would no longer be an executive committee that made decisions, but it would be all board of directors, which is all representatives or their alternates from the 36 different districts that are part of EastCon. So that's what we're doing now.
That's a lot of work.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to additions to the agenda. I just have one that, oh wait, yeah, I just have one that we can add now, or we could talk about it next month. And that's that we will be one member short, and what do we want to do about it? Would people rather talk about it tonight or next, or on August 30th? Susan's okay either way.
Yeah, I don't, it's fine.
Okay.
Ann would like to say something.
Yes, we do have a policy for this, for the replacement of a board member midterm. And it's close to the election, so it's almost a moot point because by November, there will be new slates for the Board of Ed candidates. But it's a relatively short period of time, but we do have policy.
Then I'm going to recommend, Ann, that you send the policy to everyone and we'll discuss it next Monday. How's that? Or on August 30th. How's that?
Yeah, the only thing is I may have difficulty accessing it because of my limited technology temporarily.
Okay,
And
fine.
I'll ask Lisa to do that.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ola.
So we'll all get the policy and then we'll have it on the next agenda. In that case, we're ready. Oh, did anyone else have something they wanted to add?
I'm sorry, when was the vacancy?
It starts August 31st. Or it starts September 1st.
Right.
I don't
Okay,
think we're required to have 9 Board of Ed either.
Did you hear that,
I did.
Rose?
I heard that. Thank you. Okay. We'll discuss it on the 30th. Audience for citizens and staffs. Since I didn't call on Kathy earlier, I'll call on her now.
Okay, a couple different pieces of information. The school capital fund has $40,219.79.
Will you repeat that?
$40,219.79.
That's the capital non-recurring?
Yep, that's the school capital fund.
Thank you.
The reserve fund for the Hampton School has $143,804.84. This is on the balance sheet as of June 30th. The townspeople did vote to pave those parking lots. That's unfortunately something that the finance board isn't in control of. That money can't be moved out of that account and used for anything else without another town vote. And it remains in that account until the work is done, and any balance would get transferred after. That's really something you have to bring up with the Board of Selectmen. The finance board isn't in control of that, but that vote was voted on by the townspeople. I do realize that, the parking lots, I was there the other day, and the grass is growing up through the side parking lot, and that there are other areas in the front parking lot. But that is something that you need to bring up with the Board of Selectmen. That money is there for
Is
use.
there an ordinance that says the Board of Ed has to have permission of the Board of Selectmen to use it?
Well, it was passed by the town citizenry. So that capital fund is available. I believe Mark has looked into updating the bids on that, didn't you?
Yeah, we got updated bids this spring, and then Alan has not agreed to utilize the fund. The bids did come in, they were higher than the 143, but there was probably enough that we could utilize some of the non-recurring fund to offset the difference in cost. I think it was 165 was one of the bids, so.
So I have a long list for the lawyer. I'm going to add that. Can we do it without the selectmen's permission?
I think that fund was there was wording in the fund put together that I think Alan he wants to be the coordinator of the spending.
Well,
if I
wanting
remember right.
and being legally in charge are two different things. So I will ask the lawyer.
Well, he would have to sign off on the check,
That's what, yeah.
the selectmen would have to sign off on the checks, and the treasurer or whoever else is available that's eligible to sign off on the checks. But the Board of Finance does not sign off on any of the checks at this point.
Right.
So unfortunately, that's not under our control. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Right. Yeah, if we wanted to ask for some of the cap or non-recurring fund to be used as part of that, I think we would just have to come to you guys and run it by you to take a certain amount of money out of that.
No, we do not need permission to take money out. We need permission to put money in. But we're allowed to take money out without finance board permission.
Yeah, as long as it fits conditions of the fund.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't go on
Yeah.
vacation with it. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
so
when we did the back park paving, it required us, I had to go to the Board of Finance for that.
no, you
Yeah.
didn't.
I believe we did approve the back parking lot. I don't know if that
And
was.
you
a current
can, you
requirement.
just don't have to.
Yeah, okay, and the other thing was, I didn't get a copy of the SR3 grant. Frank, if you could send that, that would be great, the proposed SR3 grant to me. Mark, you ordered the first module for the playground equipment, should be coming in, but that will be on part of last year's budget.
It came in too late for that, so it's gonna have to be ESSER fund. We can't use last year's budget because it wasn't on property prior to the July or June 30th or whatever.
Oh, okay, so it has to go, it's gonna be paid for outside of something else. And then we have 5 STEM students now. What does it cost us per student for STEM tuition?
$5,000.
5,000.
5,000, okay. And, and the mini splits, did we get multiple bids on that? Or do we just have, are we just out of proposals to put a number together as far as filling out the SR3 grant?
We got the, we did not spend, I'm I'll have to get back to you on that specific. I don't want to give you
Yeah, you
information
got
that's
one
not accurate.
wrong information, that's fine, because I know that they were like the two different grants, so maybe they weren't put in together, so it was under
Right,
the.
there's a differentiation between the grants, and Sally and I will talk tomorrow.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That's all.
Any other citizens or staff who would like to comment? Hearing none, I'm open to a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn. Susan Lovegreen.
Second,
Okay, Susan, then Juan. I'll call the roll. Russ?
Do it again. Do it again.
Yes.
Sorry, do it
Neil?
again.
Yes.
Mary Ellen?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
And Juan?
yes. Good night.
Motion carries. We're adjourning at 9:18 PM.
Good night.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.
Everyone.